Well, ahoy there, mateys. Here we are moving into division of decimals. First of all, let me make it super clear. This assumes that you already have a decent understanding of long division. If you don't, you might want to do a little refresher. Come see us during On Demand or watch some YouTube videos or go back and watch the old Flipgrid videos, the old Edpuzzle videos that I made teaching long division. So again, this assumes that you already know long division. Second thing I want to talk about is don't use a calculator at all on any of this stuff. When you're doing your test, you got to explain your work. So if you're just using calculators to get your answer, you don't actually understand what's happening. So just figured I'd say that explicitly in this video, even though I've mentioned that already. So this is for you to be able to do without a calculator, and you might need some help. So don't be afraid to ask for help. So we're jumping right into it. So first of all, when you're dividing decimals, it's exactly like doing long division. That's it. So if you're comfortable with long division, the decimals, there's just a little twist to it. That's all, no problem. So here's one quick example. If you're doing 7.32 divided by 4, you're just dividing it like 732 divided by 4. And then you just bring the decimal point directly up above where it used to be, and it ends up being 1.83. So if you're okay with long division, then this is not so bad. So let's go through this first example, 7.6 or 7 6/10 divided by 4. The estimate is about 8 divided by 4. So our answer should be close to 2. And it's always good to estimate these things just so you know when you get your answer if you're on the right track or not. So you would write it out with a 7.6 inside here and the 4 on the outside. And then you're going 4 into 7 once. 1 times 4 is 4. 7 minus 4 is 3. Drop the 6. 4 into 36 9 times. 9 times 4 is 36. There's no remainder. You're done. And you just put the decimal point at the top. There you go. And that's it. So 7.6 divided by 4 is 1.9. That is really close to 2. That's reasonable. Okay, so for B here, I want you to get some scratch paper or a whiteboard and try this on your own. So go ahead and do 4.38 divided by 12. Good luck. And we'll go through it. All right, so for this one, you might have found out, wait a minute, something's wrong here. When I divide 4.38 by 12, I end up with a remainder of 6. So with decimals, you can't have a remainder. That's the trick. So what you do is you add a 0 and you bring down the 0. And you end up, now 12 can go into 60 5 times. 5 times 12 is 60. Now there's no remainder. So the thing with decimals is you never end up with a remainder. You just add a 0, bring it down, and keep going. And it's either going to, it's called terminate, which means it's going to stop and you'll have an answer, or it's going to repeat. You'll find a pattern that repeats over and over and over again. And once you find that pattern, then you can kind of stop also. So moving on to our next example, sometimes you'll be dividing a decimal by a decimal instead of a decimal by a whole number. So in this case, you got to not do that. We can't divide decimals by decimals, but we can divide decimals by whole numbers. So here, this 1.4, we got to move the decimal over 1 spot, which means that in our divisor or dividend, we also have to move the decimal over 1 spot. So we end up actually doing 182 divided by 14. That's the same as 18.2 divided by 1.4. So whatever you're dividing by, you move the decimal over. You got to do the same thing to the number you're dividing into, and then you just divide. And our answer here would be 13.0 or just 13. Okay. So now try B on your own. How many times are we going to have to move the decimal spot over for B? We do have to move it over 2 spots because this 0.39, you got to move it over 2 spots. So you got to move this over 2 spots. So you're actually doing 27.3 divided by 39. Okay, go for it. All right, let's go through it. So hopefully you wrote it out like this. And 39 does not go into 27, but 39 goes into 273 exactly 7 times. Nothing left over, so the answer is 0.7. Okay. So we also have the case, get myself out of here, where we're dividing by a decimal that has a lot of decimal spots. Okay, so how many places do we have to move the decimal over for this problem right here? We do have to move it over 3 spots. Okay, but this one only has 2 spots. So what are we going to have to do when we rewrite this with this decimal moved over 3 spots? We add a 0. Okay, so when you write it out, this decimal gets moved over 1, 2, 3 spots. Okay, I don't know why they only drew 2 little loopies. It's 3. And here we got to move it over 1, 2, 3 spots, which means we're adding a 0. So we're actually doing 2,450 divided by 7. Okay, which means our answer is 350. All right, you might want to jot down some notes. This is a great page because it kind of shows everything, except draw an extra loopy here because they forgot to put a loopy. All right, and our last example. Okay, so here we have cell phone usage. Way back in the day, nobody had cell phones. So in 1991, there were 7.6 million cell phone subscribers. In 2011, there were 331.59 million cell phone subscribers. And the question is, how many times more were there in 2011 than there were in 1991? So that means you're going to have to divide 331.59 divided by 7.6. So when you're dividing this, how many spots do we have to move the decimal place over? We have to move it over 1 spot because the 7.6, the one number we're dividing by, has the decimal. We got to move it 1 spot over. So this one we got to move over 1 spot. Okay, so it ends up looking like this. And then when you divide and do all the operations, check it out. Here we would get 23. Now we could add a 0 and bring it down and keep this process going, but be very careful. Sometimes it says round to the nearest whole number or round to the nearest tenth. Okay, if that's the case, you don't have to keep adding zeros and keep going. Okay, so if we're rounding to the nearest whole number, this is as far as we have to go as the tenths. And now we can round it to 44. So there were about 44 times as many subscribers in 2011 as there were in 1991. All right. So I know for a lot of you, long division is a tough thing, and it's difficult, which is why you should come get help from myself or Mrs. Rude. Rewatch the videos, do your own search for YouTube videos that explain long division. But the main thing is just practice. Try to practice, get some help. Once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. So the main thing is figuring out how many times to move the decimal place over. And then also remembering that there's never a remainder when dividing with decimals. You always just add zeros, keep bringing down more zeros, and then you just keep going until you don't have to go anymore. All right, so good luck. See Ms. Rude today because it's Wednesday, I believe. Or you can email me or ask me a question on Flipgrid or see me in live time tomorrow. All right, good luck. I will see you in our next live session. Arr!